2023 Angels Camp City Council meeting. Rose, if you could take roll call, please.
Mayor Herndon.
Present.
Vice Mayor Moncada.
Present.
Councilmember Tiscornia.
Present.
Councilmember Broglio.
Present.
Councilmember Sharada.
Present.
Staff is present.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 3, report out of closed session. Direction was given to staff. Item number 4, recognition and acknowledgements. Proclaim the week of February 13th through February 18th, 2023 as Kindness Week in the City of Angels, and further deem this city as Random Acts of Kindness Zone. Rebecca.
Okay, so this is an annual proclamation that gets made for February. And we have just an annual proclamation that we do. This is something that is celebrated in all of the schools. They have ribbons that they hand out at the elementary schools as well as the high school. There's a lot of work that happens to ensure that everyone just is nice to each other. And hopefully it's all year long, but at least for this week.
I do a report.
Yeah.
So I did talk to him today. He's actually out of the area. He had asked that somebody else step in for him, and he couldn't find anybody. So
I can say that I was in elementary school when this started, the school kids got there. So I think it's great that it's a continuing tradition. And
He's had a fantastic nursery.
he
Yes,
did.
he did. It's nursery.
I think the mayor should read the proclamation.
I agree.
Aye.
Okay, we will do that. City of Angels proclamation. Whereas the City of Angels recognizes the value of acts of kindness that are performed without prompting or reason, and how these acts can positively impact the person offering kindness, the person receiving the act of kindness, and those witnessing. And whereas acts of kindness can be performed by any person in the City of Angels, regardless of age, origin, education, gender, religious beliefs, lifestyle, or abilities, for the good of those around them. And whereas kind individuals can create a more caring community and help to perpetuate genuine acts of kindness within their city, state, and even throughout the world. And whereas we seek to cultivate thoughtful and compassionate residents by teaching our youth to make a difference through Random Acts of Kindness. And whereas Random Acts of Kindness Week is recognized as an international celebration intended to encourage all of us to practice acts of kindness in our homes, schools, businesses, and communities. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jennifer Herndon, Mayor of the City of Angels Camp, hereby proclaim February 13th through the 17th, 2023 as City of Angels Random Acts of Kindness Week, and encourage the people of the City of Angels to practice random acts of kindness in the spirit of compassion, kindness, and goodwill towards all persons. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Angels, California to be affixed this 7th day of February, 2023. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. Moving on, item number 5, approval of the agenda as posted or amended.
Yeah, so we would like to pull the strategic plan, specifically to give the public and council additional time to go through it and identify any questions that they have. And we just wanted to make sure that council and the public had a good opportunity to go through everything. And then we'll have additional information available to better answer any questions that you might have at the next meeting.
So it's item 8G.
8G is being pulled for a future date or for table for the next date. Any other changes to the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, seeing none. I'm looking for a motion.
I would make a motion to approve A, B, C, D, E, F, and H.
Okay, second?
Or no?
The-
Well, I was reading off, I'm sorry.
That's the entire agenda.
That's right, just to approve the agenda then, as amended.
Okay,
I don't.
Councilmember Brolio, looking for a second.
I'll second.
Councilmember Moncada. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign.
Vice Mayor.
Sorry. You know what, can I just call her Isabel and Alvin? We're being called any vice mayor in this. I think I'm going names now. Okay, thank you for that. Moving on. Item 6, public comments. The public may address the council on any item of public interest not otherwise on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No action may be taken. Matters to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on a subsequent meeting agenda. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Do we have any members of the public for public comment? Seeing none in house, do we have any online, Rose? No. Seeing none online, there is no public comment. Item number 7, consent agenda. Anybody have any discussion or comments for pulling any items of A, B, and C consent? Okay. Seeing none, public comment on that? Public comment on item 7 consent agenda. Any members of the public want to pull any items? Nobody online at all? Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to pass a consent.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have Caroline and Alvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Pass it on 5-0. What are you laughing for? Because I reviewed.
Yes.
Moving on to regular agenda. Item number 8A. Approve resolution 2309 awarding contracts and authorizing the city administrator to execute said contracts for designing and constructing the Utica Park Playground. Amy Augustine.
Mayor and council members, we went through an RFP process, put the proposal out on public purchase, got a lot of people looking, received 4 proposals, and Rebecca and I and Chris O'Flynn and 2 members of the California Angels Camp Community Club, John Berlio and Jessica Johnson, evaluated them all, scored them, and are recommending that you hire SPEC. Basically, they had, they answered all the questions excellently, a new word that I just created, and had a nice blend of not just your standard plastic off-the-shelf stuff, but had some creativity with it and would work with you to try to blend things into sort of like a natural and playful design, and we were pretty much unanimous in our choice. Rebecca, did I forget anything about that?
No, I think the other respondents were kind of like off the catalog. And really the RFP that we put out there was to make sure that the design elements took into consideration our history, the nature of the park, mining, the gold rush. And so, a lot of the responses, well, one of them didn't include installation, so that was a problem. But the other ones were very industrial looking concepts, which just doesn't play into kind of that vision for the park. And so SDEC did a really good job of making sure that showing that they have the ability to incorporate those aspects of the design and then working with us to come up with that design.
So we will have a design group, which is going to be the same group that reviewed the bids to go through those design elements. And then we'll also be including the police chief in part of that design discussion to make sure that we're contemplating just overall security within the park with regards to the playground area.
They have a local project manager, Megan Portage, who I noticed just jumped online. The name, Popovich, excuse me, may sound familiar. She is originally from Tuolumne County. Her dad does have a picture of her playing in the playground at Utica Park. And so there is a local connection there also. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or?
No, I just love that there's some organicness to this instead of just a sterile industrial look to it. So looks like it'll be something that it's designed for us.
I love the look of nature. I just wonder about the preservation of all the wood. Is it like, it's gotta be preserved?
Some of that looks like wood
It's not, okay.
and it's not necessary.
Sorry, thank you.
I was impressed with their proposals. I think it was it hit everything that you had asked for. And then I also spoke with someone who lives out in New Braunfels, Texas, and they visited the park that they built there, and they had nothing but great things to say. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I think their design looks really good.
And I also loved knowing that the community club had representatives there as well, because obviously we know this all got started happening, but.
Yeah, and so I would make sure that they're also included in the rest of the design aspects, as well as staff, because we want to make sure that we can take care of it, and that, you know, it will last, and that we kind of have full buy-in across. So
What kind of life expectancy do they?
we'll have to talk to them. I mean, they really haven't stated one way or another, but we'll have to talk to them in terms of what the materials are, how long they last, and, you know, and those are some things that we have kind of done some research as well. There was some discussion about having like that rubberized ground covering like mat. It doesn't do well if there's severe cold or severe heat because it shrinks, it expands, and we have both of those. So if we put something like that in, it's not gonna last very long. So we would spend a lot of time trying to maintain that. So those are kind of things that we're looking ahead of to make sure that we don't have unintended consequences with some of the design aspects that have been considered, but they're just not gonna work for us.
Hopefully we get a lot of years out of it.
Yeah.
And then I know the timeline that we had desired was to have it done, sooner than later. This October 18th is the date that they're saying they can have it done, or that's?
They'll have that portion where we need to spend the money from the community club, and then they may be adding things after that for the rest of the money that we have from the other grant.
But they'll be ready to move sooner than later, like this playground could be in place for this summer.
We're waiting for your approval.
Okay. Well, let's see if we have any members of the public that have anything to say about this item. Rose, any online? Uh-oh. Do we have a connection? Oh,
We're good. Oh, she didn't raise her
okay,
hand.
looking for public comment, if anyone has any. Okay, so we'll bring it back to council.
I'm very excited, so I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Alvin,
I'll second it.
second from Gretel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, looks like it passes on a 5-0. Thank you. Okay. Moving to item 8B, accept a briefing of individual assistance that is now available to our residents and businesses. Rebecca.
Okay, so one of the first recovery aspects that we got through the federal government was individual assistance. That was made possible by some significant outreach between the city and the county of getting information out to residents and businesses in terms of what damage they may have experienced. So we did a pretty fierce campaign with that. I had developed a smart sheet that would be a web form that people could just go online, upload pictures, fill out their information. And the county liked my concept so much, they had their IT basically copy ours. And so we had the same look and feel, so it was easy. It didn't matter if you were in the county and reported on ours or you were in the city and reported on the county. We were just trying to make sure that we got as much feedback as possible. So all of that information, as well as the building inspectors, out there, ours as well as the counties, really went out to try to find all of the damages that we could identify. That is what prompted the individual assistance inclusion on the disaster. So now we have individual assistance that's available to residents and businesses. We have the Disaster Recovery Center, the DRC, that is open out of the fairgrounds. We also have all of the links for people to actually submit applications for recovery assistance on our website. It's also on the county's website. If you go out to the DRC and let's say you don't have a computer, or you just don't like filling information out on a computer, or you're confused, you can go out to the DRC and they will walk you through the entire process. There are, every aspect of help is out there for anyone to go out there and get help on any type of damage that you may have. So the one, I think, kind of confusion that people have, and this is residents and businesses in the city and the county, is, well, they submitted this already, so why do they have to submit it again? So it was submitted just so we could get an overall picture of what kind of damages were out there. Without that information, I don't know that we would have got individual assistance even on the table for anyone. So that was just step one. So now step two is you really have to apply. The thing that I am working with FEMA on is getting examples of denial letters. A denial letter does not mean that's it. It just means they need more information. Their letter just, it looks kind of cold, like you're just denied. But just because it says denied, that doesn't mean you're really denied. It just means read it clearly, because you might need to submit a rejection from your insurance, or you might need to provide more information. It would be nice if the letter said more information.
Yeah.
But that's not what it says. It says you've been denied. So just make sure if you hear that, it doesn't mean that they're denied. And they can certainly take that letter, go out to the DRC. People will help them. As people have been coming into the office, we've also been making sure that they go out to the fairgrounds. They will help you. So that is open 7 days a week right now, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. In terms of type of assistance, there is individual and household programs, so that's housing assistance and other needs assistance. There's also a lot of community services if you need crisis counseling, unemployment assistance, there's legal assistance. There are a multitude of ways on how you can apply. You can register by calling, you can go to the Disaster Recovery Center out of the fairgrounds. You can go online to disasterassistance.gov. There's a mobile app for disasterassistance.gov that you can download. And then they will review everything to determine eligibility. Just because you have insurance doesn't mean that you're going to be denied. They can also help you. Some people have very high insurance deductibles. I've heard, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in some cases. Well, they can help you with the deductible. Some of this is going to be very low interest loans, but they will work with you to try to figure out how we can help you in any way that they possibly can. And then there are maximum grant awards for housing assistance, $41,000, other needs assistance, $41,000. And what else? It's pretty self-explanatory once you get in there. It's just it's forms. So it's a lot of forms that you need to fill out and a lot of follow-up and a lot of documentation. So as we, reached out to people, just making sure that they took pictures. We also made sure that our building inspector went out and actually visited the properties and could document, the severity of the damage. And I know that the county building official did the same. So all of that information, just make sure that public is going either to the DRC out at the fairgrounds or going online. We have our website set up as well as the county. So there is assistance available, so just make sure you get it.
I think there's still some people who are not aware of the assistance that is out there. And I just spoke to someone this morning and he has like 27 trees down on his property here in city limits, and he's just overwhelmed. And I said, oh, you need to go talk to the fairgrounds and see if they can help you with that. So is that like, okay.
Yep. And the other thing, and the nice part is out at the DRC, FEMA is not, and Calaveras are not just looking at, these types of programs. They're also looking at other potential sources of assistance. And I know that the county is as well, and we do as well, in terms of looking at, church groups or volunteer groups that can also kind of help in certain situations. So they need to make sure that they're reaching out so that we even know that they have a problem.
The people that were involved with the initial damages, and they're aware that they now need to file a claim, or have we?
Yes.
I would see how maybe they would think that they already
Correct.
crossed that.
Yeah.
Check that out.
So we did just issue a press release on that. The county has as well. We've also issued a lot of public outreach on our website and social media, as has the county, to make sure, just because you submitted that initial damage, that was just so we could
To help us
it was just to
perform.
help
Yeah, I
us
get it.
prove that we have damages available to get assistance. So this is the next step of that. So we have been trying to make sure that we let them know. I also went through our entire list of every single person that submitted any damages to us and personally emailed every
Okay.
single one of them.
Perfect. That's great.
So
How many do we have?
on our list, I want to say we have like 40. And the county had far more, obviously. I talked to FEMA, came and met with me today, and I think countywide, they are up to $12 million in damages for individual assistance.
Are you finding that our new Facebook page is like a
Yes.
great way to get
Yeah.
information out?
Yeah.
And that people are responsive?
Yes. Yeah, we get a lot of traffic on our Facebook page.
That's great.
And then I also, if
And
I'm
it's on our
posting
website.
something, I make sure that I'm also sharing it with the local bulletin groups as well, and then they also help us know.
I think the outreach has been great. I've seen it and it's been pretty self-explanatory. I'm glad you addressed what city and county, because somebody had reached out to me and they were from out of the city, and I was like, I don't know which one you're supposed to go to, because they did look the same,
Doesn't
but it didn't map. That's good to know. Okay, thank you for that.
We didn't care,
Good.
and we just worked together, so, I would tell the county, hey, this is, send your building inspector over there, and then they would tell me something, and I would send ours over there, so. We had very good, cooperation and coordination.
Okay. Okay, do we have any members of the public that have any comment on this item? Seeing none here. Seeing any hands up online at all, Rose? No. Okay, so this is just no action, but thank you for the update on this. Thank you so much. Item 8C. Let me see. Oh, that was 8C.
No, that
No, that would be, sorry, okay, now we're going to 8C. 8C is the approved resolution 2315 and approval of O'Leary construction contract for the police range project. Scott Ellis, Chief of Police.
As you all know, in December, we accepted a donation from the Wings of Freedom Foundation in the amount of $100,000. About approximately $50,000 of that, per that donation, was agreed to be spent at the range and improvements out at our range facility. Part of that is to build a covered structure for shade and shelter for us out there. Contacted several construction companies and received several bids, with Roleri Construction being the lowest of the bids received, in the amount of $19,950 to complete the work at that location. And there's a contract and resolution to be approved by council, hopefully, to allow us to go into contract with Roleri Construction to get the work done.
Okay, so, just on that, so the, most of the time, we have to, for, construction contracts, we have to adhere to prevailing wage. There is one circumstance where we do not have to, actually go into prevailing wage, and that is if the project is under $25,000 and is funded with non-local funds. So in this case, it's donated private funds and it's under 25,000. I had to dig around for that, but I found it. It's specifically in labor code, and it is a provision in contract code pointing to labor code. So in this particular case, that was how we were able to utilize that provision. But you need to agree to use that provision in addition to that. So we did include that in the contract, that's what we're pointing to, as well as in the resolution. Okay.
Fantastic. May I just make a request? Only because I didn't see it in here, the others that bid and what their costs were. I would just like for future, just to know that we if a contractor says, hey, I've been on it, I'm like, oh, really? I didn't, you know.
Yep.
Kind of like a thank you for your interest.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, I have those.
Awesome. And the only thing I want to say is it appears that Exhibit A, scope of services, the total on that is 19.5 and it should be 19.9.
So it should be.
I think there's a typo. That's the only thing I saw.
You have plans to do more things out there?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've
Because
got to
this
do
is
some,
only your 20,000 you're gonna spend on.
yeah, we've got to do some grading. There's some drainage issues because of the spray fields that causes quite a mess out there. And then I want to put rock around the range area also to help with drainage and the dust and that kind of
So
stuff.
you just want to keep all your projects under 25,000?
That's the goal. Well, we have
It's awesome. Super glad.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a lifesaver that Rebecca found that, because when I found out that we needed to do prevailing wage, and I was like, this is a small project, it's not that big of a project, and they had a 31-page contract for a fairly small construction company that I didn't think was probably gonna be able to meet some of the requirements of that. I'm like, well, what in the world are we gonna do now? And
that's awesome.
Rebecca went hunting and
I
found
love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
some exemptions for us.
You think it's gonna happen pretty fast as far as like supply chain for the structure itself?
Yeah, when I started this not started a couple weeks ago, I started a couple months ago, but when I met with Roleri Construction, he was ready to start the following week. So he
Good.
got kind of put on hold, and
We don't wanna hold you up.
it doesn't sound like it's going to be an issue to get the supplies that are needed for it.
Okay, so do we have any members of the public with any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none here and seeing none online, Rose, I'd like to bring it back and potentially have council consider for a motion.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Caroline and Isabel, and we need to pull this since it's a resolution. Is that right?
No, you're good.
We can do, okay, all in favor of this?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, passes on a 5-0. Nope. Rattling her notes over there. Anything got,
Thank you.
takes us to item 8D. Approve resolution number 2316, awarding contract to Sutton Enterprises for the demolition, removal, and replacement of damaged concrete sidewalks in an amount not to exceed $36,500. Rebecca.
Okay, and we will make sure that in future we'll add the additional contractors. There was only one other bidder on this one. We opened the bids in front of both of them, and Sutton was the lowest bidder by about 10,000.
And this one is prevailing wage.
Yeah. Yes. So unfortunately, they are over the 25,000, and it is actually LTF. So we don't really do anything. Couldn't find an exemption on that one. So this is for the sidewalks downtown. We need to do some work down there. So a lot of it is really just going to be demo, removal, and replace various sections of concrete throughout downtown. It's not fully just gotten the whole thing and then redoing the whole thing. It is just mainly to take care of the sections that have lifted and address those. I will say, ultimately, it's just keep happening because those trees keep making it happen. So we will need to bring that to council to have the trees removed because
I did have a question about that. Are we going to, where the areas are that are getting repaired and there is a tree, are we gonna take that tree out now, or we're just gonna repair it and wait for it?
we're gonna repair it and then we will have to
Do it again?
we'll have to figure out how to remove the trees, because for that, I'm gonna need like we'll probably have to bid it out, and we'll have to close to remove it, because we'll have to do them all at the same time.
Is this gonna affect any of the plaques?
I know.
It could,
Will they try to cut around them and salvage them and take them? Obviously.
But it has to get done.
Yeah, I mean, no, I got it.
That's where, yeah.
And obviously, we have to work
Removing
around
those.
Caltrans encroachment permits and all that stuff. So,
and then,
Oh, I don't know that we ever did.
Sorry,
We
what's that,
before
guys?
our time.
No, did we talk about removing those plaques anyways off the sidewalk because they were slick?
we
At one
kind
point or
of,
not?
no, I mean, we have had some issues with people, slipping on them, so we probably do need to
Maybe this
probably
was-
talk about that at some point, but, for right now, this is just to
No, I know, I was just, yeah.
the lifting.
I think there's a product, it's called like shark fin or something that you can actually paint over, and it has, it's
Great.
clear, but it has a grit.
Oh,
That might be.
I don't know why it popped in my head, but it.
and then, our insurance, pool will, give us $2,500 towards, the cost of doing it. It's better than.
Yep. Okay, any public comment on this item? Nothing online. Okay, so we're looking for the approval of resolution 2316.
I'll make a motion for resolution 2316.
I think I'm gonna second that one.
Oh.
All approve, all in favor, I'm sorry?
I,
Aye. Any opposed? All right. You got that, Rose, 5-0?
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 8E. Appoint a council member and an alternate to sit on the All Hazards Subcommittee. Rebecca.
Okay, so we talked about this need when the contract was awarded to Interwest. They were selected as the contractor or the consultant to help us put together the All Hazards Planning Codes Update Project. And so it was discussed of having a council member sit on that subcommittee. So we need you to decide who is going to sit on that, and then also an alternate in the cases that they're not available. The meetings will occur on the second Tuesday of each month at 1 p.m. via Teams or Zoom. They last, I think it lasted about an hour, the last one.
Okay. Okay, so do we just want to see who has interest, or is somebody nominating somebody? What process do we want to take here?
You guys can talk amongst
Right.
yourselves to figure out how you want to do it.
Does anybody have any
what exactly
interest?
is this?
So this is the all hazard, so in terms of like
Well, I mean, the one, yeah, it's like the heritage roads that we have, that we need to develop codes pertaining to how do we ensure the safety of those roads for, safety, or for safety personnel? Do we have them, no parking, only park on one side? It's that kind of thing, in addition to any other hazards that present themselves within the city that we need to develop code or modify an existing code to mitigate that hazard.
Grading, erosion,
Yes.
flooding.
Mhm.
How long is the meeting?
1 hour.
I was gonna say, I can,
I'll try.
yeah.
I can start it off.
I could probably be an alternate.
It's on a
I'm closed on
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, you're closed.
Right, so I think, and were you looking for something to try to fit?
Aren't you looking for more time to fill out your day?
I mean, when we did, I thought, when we did our appointments earlier this year, we were trying to find something for you on a Monday or Tuesday. Am I wrong?
I'm not looking for anything else, but.
But based on,
We are looking.
based on,
It's not distribution.
based on distribution, who's on enough committees? I think maybe,
I'm done, I'm not taking it.
I can't be on this one. And Alvin's tapped out.
Gretel, you're up.
So I think
I
Greta,
can be.
If you can't, then I'll,
Okay.
You'll be our alternate?
should,
Yeah, it's just Zoom.
yeah.
I'm sure I can still make macaroni back then.
Keyboard conversation.
and if it doesn't work out, I will,
So who's making a
So
motion?
Alvin is the alternate?
I'll be alternate, that's fine, right? I'm just saying that if it doesn't work out and you
Yeah,
get
it's fine.
whatever, I will take it over.
We have Alvin or Isabel that can be
I'll
alternate.
take it.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, and then if Gretel doesn't do it, I step in, you're then alternate.
Okay, sounds good.
Second alternate of Isabel.
I'm the alternate to the alternate.
So that's the direction, we don't need a motion.
Second Tuesday of every month.
You don't want a motion on that?
Yes, I would.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I will make the
Do we need to
motion.
open it up for public comment before we make?
Oh, yeah, hold on.
I don't think we have any members of the public here.
Yeah.
Concerns made. Chief Ellis, do you have any concerns about Gretel being the person?
Don't get me started. All it means macaroni salad.
Right? Okay, any members online? Anybody online have
Can
any?
slip me notes in the back door.
Okay, so now I'll bring it back for a motion for Gretel and Alvin as the alternate with Isabel as the second alternate.
I will make that motion.
Isabel first,
I'll second.
Alvin second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for that. Any
Oh, I
opposed?
didn't hear that.
I said yay.
She didn't oppose. Yeah, she said, right? Item 8F, discussion and direction on council calendar for the month of July and November of '23. Roads, what are we gonna do?
So in front of you, you should have July calendar and November. Our first meeting for July falls on the holiday of 4th of July. And then November, the second meeting, is close to the Thanksgiving holiday. So,
Right.
What did we do this year for Thanksgiving? I don't believe we.
no, we
didn't have
didn't
a
have.
problem. We started the new.
We were having for Christmas.
December, yeah.
Is there anything, city administrator, that we need to know about in July that would be pressing enough that we would need to move?
There's always the option to call a special meeting should something come up.
Sure.
So like not have a meeting that whole week and just do the July 18th unless there was something?
You could do that.
Is it holiday pay if we have a meeting?
I'm just asking for a friend.
Uh,
We're all laughing.
I won't be here, I will be camping on July 4th.
Yeah. Well, we don't have a lot, we're not having a meeting on Independence Day. So,
We can have fireworks and the whole 9
we
yards
could,
down here.
I think celebrating is
Patriotic
great,
flags.
but I think, what you could alternatively do is move it till the 11th and have one on the 18th. I would just say not
Say
have
cancel
one,
it.
yeah,
And then
not have
special
We
one.
do have a
Special
meeting
meeting
on
if needed.
June 27th, which is the previous Tuesday.
We do.
I believe, am I wrong on that?
I have
Well,
all of them in my.
I do have a
No,
motion.
it's the
No,
20th.
it's the 20th.
I got off because of that right there, so we don't have one.
Sixth.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I just think,
If we need a special meeting, we
Yeah.
can call a special meeting.
Agree.
so, and you have to think like, we will have just done
budget.
Financials.
Marathon meetings
Yeah.
to do the budget.
Yeah. This will be a breather.
This could be a breather.
Yeah, okay.
I only seen you two ladies, but
I know.
great time. And Michelle, wherever she's at.
Okay, so we'll
Yes.
cancel the one for the
Cancel the 4th of July and only have July 18th, correct? And then Thanksgiving.
So the November one, so in December, there is no conflicts. So unlike this last year where there was, so we only had one meeting in December, this time we would have two
Yeah,
meetings in
the fifth
December
and
and
the
just
19th.
one.
Correct. Okay. So that sounds good too.
So, hold on, I gotta get that in my phone. So we're thinking,
Move it to the 28th or just cancel it altogether?
Cancel it because
Cancel it.
December we won't need
We're
to
gonna
cancel
special
a meeting
then.
because of the way they fall.
Special, right?
It's very nice, but I mean, it's the 5th and the 19th. It's not really,
Yeah.
it's not any,
If it happens.
right. I
We can do
mean.
this.
Will we be payroll right
Then we have,
there?
then we have a second.
January, yeah.
okay, so,
Especially.
That's actually.
Right.
Okay.
so November 7th it is, and that's
We're
it.
canceling now. Sounds good.
So we're looking for public comment on our schedule, our calendar for both July and November. Do we have any members of the public? Seeing none? They seem okay with it.
A motion.
I'm looking for a motion to make these two changes for the
Make the
calendar.
motion.
Caroline,
I'll second it.
Gretel, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Thank you very much. 5-0. Okay, we pulled item G. That takes us to item H.
Okay,
Discussion regarding mid-year 2023 budget and approval of resolution 2321 for budget adjustments requiring city council approval.
okay. So, we finally were able to, get mid-year done. And we look pretty good, all in all. This is, we operate on a July through June fiscal year. December generally represents that 50% benchmark. So we look at revenues and expenditures in comparison to where they fit on that 50%. So we look at how much was budgeted versus what the actuals are through December 31st. And is it 50% higher or lower? Now, the thing is, some of our revenues are way under 50%, but that's just because they don't come in July through December, they come in January. So in January, then they'll be 50%. And so we've got that cyclical consideration that we have to do in that analysis. We also have to, at this time, report out internal transfers. So those would be transfers that happen within a department, within a fund, that we have to report out to you just to let you know, hey, we took salary savings out of here and we moved it down to office supplies or whatever. And then we've got transfers that are under your authority that require the 4/5 approval by city council. So those are the three things that we're looking at. So we've been working with the external audit firm to get the audit completed. Again, this is kind of like when I came in last year in February, the audit was not completed. And so I came into 2 years of the LTF audits not being done and the prior fiscal year not being anywhere near done. So a lot of it was just kind of just trying to get through it with that auditor and with RAMs because we still had RAMs at that time. So the things that I saw kind of accounting wise, they're technically okay, but they're not really how I would have done them because they just don't really fit with how operational budget should be. So there were things that I wanted to change for this fiscal year. So we've had to work through a lot of that, and there still was a lot of cleanup to do this fiscal year from last fiscal year. So we've been spending a lot of time on that. So we've continued to work with the current auditor on making some of those adjustments and changes. So we're almost done with that. And that has continued to occur throughout this fiscal year. So I kind of look at this fiscal year as a rebuild year in terms of our accounting structure, our chart of accounts, how we budget. And even as, I budgeted, we're still finding where, there's still postings that are happening that we don't agree with. So Michelle's having to go back and do journal entries to correct them. And then we're having to go back and reallocate and identify why that allocation is happening the way that it is. And some of those things are just kind of embedded in the financial system. So we're trying to unbake the bread. And I've talked about this in prior meetings, we also have operational issues that are a problem nationwide, and that mainly is market and supply chain issues. So if you have a lack of supply, then your prices are going to go up. And so we've seen some pretty phenomenal pricing spikes just because of the fact that supply is down. So we've had issues with energy, with fuel, with chemicals, with materials. It's just kind of been in particular sectors that we've kind of just blown through the budget, and we just don't have any control over that, and we don't have a choice. We have to buy chemicals. We have to buy fuel, we have to pay for electricity. But those were kind of things that we knew. We just weren't sure how bad it was going to be. We just knew it was going to be bad. So there are areas where we require an increase in budget just because of unforeseen issues. And then so in those areas, we're recommending a one-time budget for the remainder of the fiscal year to catch up on some of those issues. We are also asking for a budget adjustment for the remainder of the fiscal year to address code compliance backlog. We've been without code compliance for 15 years. We have a huge running total that keeps getting added to every day that we're working through, but we only have our code compliance person 1 day a week. And so by the time, she comes the next week, she's only gotten, 4 things done on one code compliance case, and she's still waiting for follow-up. So we're asking for a second day per week with her for the rest of the fiscal year to kind of help get some catch-up done.
And she has the time to do that?
She does.
They can allocate that to us? Okay.
Yeah. And this report's mainly focusing on our operating funds, so general fund, the wastewater fund, and the water fund, and then just any highs or lows that you should be aware of. So in terms of all funds and expenditures for actuals, most of our expenditures happen in the general fund. And that's because that's where our police, our fire, administration, finance, building planning. So other than water and wastewater, that's where all of our operational expenditures are. So you can see, this blue portion, that's where 50% roughly of our budgeted expenditures have been spent in the general fund. And then on the next slide, or on the next page, we've got all funds. So again, every single fund, we're not specifying just the general fund, revenue to expenses. So that the blue is the revenue, the expenses is the orangish reddish color. So for instance, in the general fund, we have had more expenses than revenue. But again, remember things like property tax, those don't come in until January, and we're only looking at through December. We've got a lot of other areas where revenue is significantly higher than expenditures, and that's because those revenues are to incorporate additional capital reserves, like for water or wastewater. And so we always keep our expenditures at a lower level because we're reserving quite a bit of that annual revenue for capital projects that would happen. Now in terms of the general fund budget, that's the main component of the budget that you have the most authority over is the general fund. So the general fund expenditure budget was 5.6 million and the budgeted revenue was 5.1. And this is a difference of about 500,000. And if you recall, and throughout the whole year, because this is not just the budget that was adopted on June 30th, this is incorporating all of the changes that council has approved to current day. There's a difference of that 500,000, and that was to spend on those one-time expenditures as an investment in everything from technology, equipment, training, projects that have been deferred. And that portion of 500,000 was coming from that accumulated unrestricted balance in the general fund. So when we look at the unaudited balance that we're looking at right now in the audit, which will be coming to you shortly, it's just over $4 million. So it's not like there's not 500,000 that we can use towards one-time costs. It's coming out of that $4 million. This balance, that $4 million, comes from years of accumulated sales tax, transient occupancy tax, property taxes, and any other revenues that were in excess of expenditures. So as of December 31st, the general fund expenditures, the actuals was just over 2 million, or 36% of the budget. So recall, as of December, 50% is the benchmark. We're at 36% of expenses. Revenues, 1.4, that's about 29% of the budget. But again, property taxes haven't posted yet. Franchise fees haven't posted yet. Some of the sales tax that was reported, that gets backdated to June 30th of last year, even though we got the cash this year because we're on a full basis. Prop 172 hasn't been fully funded through the first half of the year. And all of those revenues, you will start seeing them all catch up in Q3. So the difference between actual expenditures and actual revenues in the general fund is just shy of 600,000. So generally, when I see that, I'm not concerned, and really it's just a cash flow difference because we're waiting for that revenue cash to come in. But we have a very sizable pool, so cash flow is not a problem. So in terms of expenditures, we talked about this a little bit ago. Electricity is 129% higher than what we budgeted. And really, there's several things that are causing this. One, which Royal can attest to, CPPA billing made an issue on the factor that they had attributed to the meter for the Pickle Porch property that used to be the CPB, as well as the museum. So they have both seen massive increases in their electricity. So basically, we had been getting underbilled by CPPA for a very long time.
The museum still doesn't fall underneath.
They had the wrong factor
Gotcha.
on the billing for the
Okay.
bears. So now
I thought they got pulled out of, never mind.
no, so
Okay.
they have corrected it, but now it means that instead of the bill being very little, it's hundreds of dollars instead of the very small amount that they were.
Did they try to retro it
They
back?
didn't go to retro,
Oh, yeah.
but it's just going forward. So we obviously had budgeted based on trends, and so we weren't anticipating those additional like $12,000 a year.
Well, thank goodness they did the installation at the museum. Yeah, because that one was in the summer.
Yeah, so that was a big component of it, and just in general, electricity is just higher than it had been. Vehicle maintenance and repair, we've had major repairs needed in fire and police that were beyond our regular trends. Building maintenance and repair is higher. City Hall and the post office both had, leaking roof issues. Our water heater in City Hall died. The refrigerator at City Hall died. Lots of Yes. And then grounds maintenance is higher due to trees. Before the storms ever happened, that gigantic tree at Gateway Park fell. And then we also had just downed trees and trimming that needed to happen beforehand, which thank goodness we actually trimmed all those trees downtown before the storms happened. But that needed to be done safety-wise, so even though we didn't have that originally budgeted, that was something that absolutely needed to be done. So, but the gateway definitely was not contemplated. We didn't think that tree was gonna fall down in the middle of the gateway. And then utilities is higher. The utility line item includes propane, and then that increase for code compliance. The cost for that is, for the remainder of the fiscal year would be $17,600. The, for all of this, all of these expenditures, those are all, identified in the detail, that's incorporated in this packet. Now revenues, there's some really good news on the revenues. The business licenses, are nearly 60% instead of 50%. So 9% higher than what anticipated. Part of that is staff are working on looking at the licenses that we do have and determining who may have been missed over COVID. So what we identified is that there were businesses that, for whatever reason, didn't get the renewal information sent out to them during the COVID period. So we're trying to get all of them caught up. And then, and so part of that is attributed to about $2,200 higher in revenue than what we had anticipated for this period of time. Reimbursements are 546% higher than anticipated. So a couple of things there. We have the no fee waiver policy, which means there's no internal employee fee waivers that are happening. Any fee waiver has to come to council. So that practice isn't happening anymore. And then I'm also made it very clear to staff that we need to be reimbursed for costs. So if we've gone out and done something in the public for whatever reason, I think there's just been a historical practice of we'll just get it done and not necessarily bill for it. But when it's on private property, we can't not recoup those costs. And that's all in our fee schedules. It's all in our policies. That's nothing that we're not supposed to be doing. It's just been a historical practice that we're not doing anymore.
Go back to that. So reimbursements are 546% higher than anticipated. What is that? There's a no fee waiver policy
Basically,
for
that's the money.
for 39, so call it $40,000. What is that? I mean, what are you saying we're going on to?
Everything.
Like,
It's
what
everything
is?
from like special events, for encroachment permits, for anything that we're,
Staff used to be able to give fee waivers, it didn't have to come to council, so
Right,
that's all
okay, I'm
stopped.
with this, okay.
yeah. Or,
Using the park?
PG&E, hit something. I'm on the, immediately, I'm like, tell them I want my money. So everything is being scrutinized to ensure that we're recouping whatever costs are going out, whether it be fire,
So we
public works.
recouped $40,000, not lost.
Even like
Okay.
connection
I'm with
fees
you.
too, remember?
Connection
Right, the
fees,
connection
all
fees,
right.
okay, deal. I just thank you, I just wanted some examples, and we're $40,000 in the good.
Yep. Building permits are 148% higher than what was anticipated. So we're requiring all collection of permit fees when the customer submits. There were some instances where the plans might be dropped off, and then we would be waiting for them to pay. So everybody has to pay the moment they drop it off. We don't do any work unless they pay. In addition, we have, projects like the Utica Hotel that's underway. Those were not contemplated in the revenues in terms of the budgeted revenue. So we're
So
seeing
these are all permit, this 133 is all permits that they.
all building permits, tons of solar permits, lots of regrowths, like generators, like all of these things just were not, didn't follow the trends that we had based the budget on, so we're seeing a lot of activity there. Planning, and so that's 133,000.
Oh, weird. So, that's an increase, but it's a wash, because those are permitted fees though, right? But I mean that, because it's for somebody's, we're charging that up front.
We
So
charge, it's, well, so building and planning, if you looked at the budget,
Mm-hmm.
was not a wash. It was.
There was no recuperating of it.
We weren't recuperating all the.
Right, we weren't, but now we're billing correctly, so this 133 is not money we can spend because we have to wait for Amy or somebody to go through those sets of plans and do those plan checks. We're just collecting that up front now.
We're collecting it, but this also includes, costs for CSG, it's admin costs,
Right.
it's, so what I would say is there are costs in the permit fee
Mm-hmm.
that we have not been fully,
Billing for correct.
well, not only that, there's costs in the building permit fee that are associated with accounting and me.
Right.
That
Okay.
we're not getting that. It's sitting in the building and planning department, and then when you look over on the finance administration side, we're really not, like, we're not billing the building department for
Your time done, okay, so you're half an hour worth of whatever, you're not
Right.
billing that, okay.
So it's just baked into the building permit fee.
Okay.
What's also is supposed to be baked in the building permit fee is also all the overhead, the electricity, the paper, the ink, the, there's long-term costs in there as well in terms of all of those operational components. So you shouldn't necessarily be 0 for 0. You're going to be, you could be over in the building and planning, or in the building and planning budget that's collected, but this is getting collected up front. There will continue to be costs going forward as well.
Gotcha.
Planning fees, 163% higher than was budgeted. That's mainly attributed for Habitat Humanity.
Are they already paid?
They've paid a portion. So if you recall, we changed the policy, so they're not paying fully upfront. They're paying, what was it, 60,000?
They're paying just for the plan check at this
Yeah.
point?
And then we'll continue to have them up their,
Stages.
and that way they're not paying the whole thing. And we're also working with them to try to help them save, costs.
Matt also was a big.
Yeah, MACT is also the big one. Banner event fees are 100%, due to the no fee waiver policy. You rent, you want to have banner hung where you're paying for the banner. We're still not breaking even because, we charge for public works time and we charge for, the, Gold Lake Care for, Gold Electric to come out, but we're not really including all of the work for, Amy or the Caitlin or any of that. So we're still not breaking even on this guy, but it's definitely better than it was. The police department received, Homeland Security, grant monies to purchase various supplies. So that was an increase of 20,000, also an increase of expenditures of 20,000. The wastewater operating fund revenues, I'm missing a number in there, but basically it's 3.2, expenditures, 2.6, difference of 2.3 in the black. And that's reserved for operational needs and then future capital projects. And then of that difference, 1.2 was included in expense to transfer out to the capital fund, for future, capital projects. As of December, only 550,000 roughly is actual expenses, or 21% of the budget. Actual revenues were 1.6, which is 50% of the revenues. The nice part with water and wastewater rates, they're pretty static. We know how many customers we have, and we know when they're gonna get billed, and we know when their money's gonna come in. So that's a positive difference of just over $1 million. Again, it's less electricity, much higher than anticipated, additional needs of 69,000, and telephone increase of 3,000. Revenue, no concerns.
Can we go back to this? Maybe I missed it. Wastewater, it says revenues are budgeted at 3.2 with expenses at 2.6 and a difference of 2.3. I'm not following that.
I'm missing a number. Sorry, I'll have to look at it.
Maybe it was.
It's gonna be that
gotta be
number,
like
it's gonna be that number between the 3 and the 2.
It's gotta be 4.324. 3
It should be 4 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
should be the difference of
Yeah. Sorry, fat finger. But anyway, it is a difference of 2.3. So that,
So the budgeted is wrong or the expenses are wrong?
the budgeted portion.
So
But but in both wastewater and water, your rate revenue is higher than your operating because a portion of your rate is specifically for capital. And so that's why it's that way. And so that capital will get shaved off to go to that capital fund and it'll sit there. And then when we have projects identified, then you would approve those projects and then that would happen. And I would say whether it's a water project or a wastewater project, when we get into those higher dollar value projects, those take a really long time to get done because there's a lot of design complexities in there that get done out of house. So Jubilee will work with it. Blackwater is working on that other one that's grant funded, but still they take quite a while to get through. Water, we don't make as much money in the water. 1.9, expenses 1.5, difference of 326 still in the black. And then, yeah, so it's still your 25% of budget on expenses and your 53% on revenue.
Okay.
So the areas to note on expenses, overtime's higher than anticipated. And that's mainly attributed to we had water main breaks. It seemed like over and over and over again. So we had a lot of overtime during that period of time. Electricity higher than anticipated, additional needs of 20,000. Chemicals are really high.
Yep.
So we need an additional 25,000 there. Equipment maintenance, we had some pretty significant failures there, so 20,000. Revenues, we had not been charging late fees the entire period of COVID.
Right.
And so it was really, we still didn't know how that was gonna work because we're still getting assistance through the state and through ACCA, and part of the strings on that is you can't charge late fees, and you gotta waive the late fees. So we were very conservative in terms of budgeting that, those late fees. But when everything's said and done, they are 46% higher than what was budgeted. So an increase of about 18,000.
Because we totally get to the budgeted amount because of that reason.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
okay,
I don't know.
so
they
we
might-
undershot it.
They might tell us we have to like
Well, you
not
don't
charge
know.
anybody
Right.
like
Yeah.
Forever.
I don't know. So we conservatively did that. Now, the thing is, those late fees, if you recall, we leveraged the late fees on the system.
We use that money.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
get
So-
then half or somewhere else.
Water and wastewater.
Is it?
So both. So in, yeah, no, I'll have to go back and look. It was all of the late fees.
There's late fees and some other, but I could be
We
somewhere.
may have done a general fund
I
contribution.
thought so, some,
I'll
or
have
was
to
it,
go back.
like- was it part of COVID stimulus?
Grant.
Was it part of the CARES money?
Movie camera?
We documented, it's in there somewhere.
Yeah,
But yeah, but, the late fees are so much higher, that it just, yeah, it'll be good. So capital projects slow to get going. We're still working on getting, approval through environmental, and the other one is in the design phase now. Road projects, we've had to, we've been working with Jubilee on getting the pavement management information. So we did get it included in our system, so that just happened. The sign project is about to go out to bid. The speed survey was just completed and we just reviewed it, so I'll bring that probably to the next council meeting to go over that. The firehouse design is now underway, and so we just had a meeting yesterday to talk through some of those elements. So we are working on that. The Angels Creek Trail, we're going through environmental and cultural right now. And once we get through that, then we'll have an idea exactly where that needs to be, and then we can start working on right away. The Utica Park is moving to, we have the RFP out right now. It closes on the 17th, for the expansion design. So that larger project, so design and construction, we'll start seeing that happening. We've already stopped renting the park, for anything after May. June 1st, yeah. And then other projects will be defined upon the approval of the strategic plan, whether it's capital or just operational projects.
Question, you say one sewer project is still awaiting approval from,
It's FEMA and Calaveras. Calaveras was fine with it. It's in environmental with FEMA.
okay,
And so there's a lot of environmental aspects to that, so we just need to make sure we don't jump out ahead before that's all kind of.
and then you talk about one sewer project and another, how are we gonna differentiate? What are we calling them? What's one project versus the other?
Well, there's the East Trunk Booster, and then
So which
there's
one's
the,
East Trunk is on design?
so the sewer project is awaiting approval. That's the FEMA one.
Yeah,
And then it's actually a water project that's now in the design phase. So that would be the water improvement, water plant improvement.
and then your road projects that are pavement management, you're still trying to identify those.
Yeah, so we've got the pavement management information, and then basically we look at the rating of the pavement, and then determine which ones
Qualify.
well, it's a combination. So we've got some funding that we can use on local or non-local roads.
Mhm.
And then we have some funding that we can only use on federally type roads. So that would be like Stockton Road, Murphy's Grade, Vallecito. Can't remember. So it depends on the funding source,
Mhm.
which road.
Yeah.
And then it depends on the issue on the road. So, and then we're also trying to, if we've got, for instance, Chris and I are also working on looking at some of the water and wastewater line replacements that need to be done that were contemplated in the capital plan.
Mhm.
If that is a line that absolutely needs to be done, because maybe if that's one that we've identified as causing a lot of I&I, then it's impacting a road that is not on a high scale, we can type them together.
Okay.
So we're having to kind of play Sudoku with the water, wastewater, road projects.
Okay, thank you.
get a weird slow on that. Are you guys here for the road report? What was that? Because there was a presentation and it was,
We're using the
sitting-
data off that.
we're sitting, see, if I remember right, we're sitting pretty good right now. We're not in the really poor, but I don't know if you have the data to, I mean, it's been a
I
couple
don't
years
think
since
we
I've
did.
said.
But you're talking about like the condition of the road.
The condition of
based
all
on-
the roads throughout the
High
city, they
travel.
came
Yep.
through and did a whole thing, and
It was a
We were s-
2019 plan.
yeah, we were sitting pretty,
That was a while ago, though. We had some pretty big storms.
Yeah.
so. I mean, not that we need to spend some, don't get me wrong, we need
Yeah.
to spend some money, I'm just saying.
But it's not like a typical California roads where
Right.
Right,
Tesla goes in the hole.
Yeah.
and then-
But I think some of them,
And I
if
think,
you can do maintenance before they get to the.
exactly, that, I identified that in the
Maintenance.
CIP, yeah.
and I think that's kind of part of the public misnomer is that we're gonna work on the worst roads.
Right.
And that's really not what you're supposed to do.
You're supposed to
Maintain.
You're
maintain
supposed to mean
crack
the best
ceilings,
roads
yeah.
so that they'll last longer.
Right.
Your poorest roads are just gonna continue to get worse.
And that's important for the public to understand because they see road crews out working on a decent road and doing a maintenance to try to get the longevity of life to last longer. And they say, oh, but my road over here is way, way worse off. That money wouldn't have fixed 10 feet of that damaged road. It's just,
No.
it's too far gone.
And
And so we're
then-
trying to,
Right, and then also the road money that we get is pretty limited. And it's also,
30,000.
yeah, and it's
like
also
60 or something.
specific
No.
to what we can
Can't
use on
do.
it. So, so when we come across more money, there's usually generally more restrictions on it. So, yeah, I think some of the public frustration that will also happen is, well, why are you fixing that road when you can fix this road? And it's
Right.
just, it's the classification of the road. And so we're kind of limited. I've been, trying to work, to swap money. So if it's federal money, if we can trade it for, state, then it opens us up to be able to use it on any, any road within our system. But not all funding sources will allow you to do that.
Thanks, sorry, I didn't mean to get off
Yeah,
topic.
no problem. So the one area in looking at everything, I think, we need to look at getting a TOT audit. That's the one area that I see is underperforming compared to where I think it should be. And it's not just that it's this year, I see it underperforming like all the years. And so when the rate was increased, I should have seen a higher spike, and I don't see that happening. Instead, it just has kind of remained relatively flat overall. We don't have an agreement with Airbnb. I have tried to stalk them to get them to respond to me so we can get a contract agreement with them, and I still have just not been able to do that.
so they collect a tax and we don't know that we're getting it.
No,
Airbnb.
Airbnb does not collect our taxes.
Oh.
So
So
we do
the
not have an
homeowner,
agreement. So the homeowner has to collect the tax on their own and then submit it. And what I will say is some do, and I will say some don't.
right,
But we would have to physically have someone in the office going and policing all of the potential Airbnbs and VRBOs and vacation rentals that are out there, and we don't have the staff to do that. So it would make more sense for us to, we have a contract with a company that does sales tax audits. They find sales, like, if a business was in the county and they moved to the city, right? And they forgot to update their resale information, then the county's still receiving our sales tax instead of us. They find that kind of stuff. And it's usually like it's a timing issue, and maybe it's like $160 that they recovered. I would rather get the $100,000 in TOT that we're not getting
Right.
than the $169.
so this is on the
in sales
honor
tax.
system right now with
Mhm.
Airbnb, or people who are renting other places?
That's Airbnb and your VRBOs?
And
And that-
vacation rentals.
anything.
and
All of
anything.
it, and that's just because you don't have a contract with the city?
If it's Airbnb and VRBO do not collect our TOT. They will not collect TOT for any agency unless you have a collection contract with them.
So then it's up to the homeowner to send us the tax
Correct.
on the honor system.
Yeah.
But any vacation rental that is using a, rental agency will collect all that, like Sierra.
So they collect it, but they're not turning it over.
Well, like if you go through Sierra, whatever the rental place is up in Arnold, and they manage your property, they collect
collect
it.
it.
They collect
collect
it and turn it in, and they're pretty good about it.
Yeah,
Because that's
they
all,
get audited.
yeah.
Right.
Airbnb does not do that. So it took us about 2 years to get a contract with them at the county. And I did reach out at that time when we did it with the county that you guys might want to do it here, and it didn't happen. So I can't get a hold of anyone at Airbnb, and that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
So, but there are companies that we can hire, like Muni, but I would suggest we go out and find, there's lots of companies that specialize in TOT audits, and have them do that, because there's definitely a revenue bleed in that area.
I mean, it's just in the city of Angels, how many VRBOs are managed by individuals in the city limits?
There's probably only like 20. Do you
I mean,
think?
it can't be that many that we have to go hire another company.
I've looked before, and it's never like
Not
an
that many.
astounding number.
And even if half of them are doing it right or using a rental agency, I mean, I just think.
These are ones that aren't using a rental agency. They're renting out their own. They're either renting out a room in their house, or they're renting out their mother-in-law unit in their garage. They're all over the place in Angels.
And it's all temporary. Temporary, like for 3 nights or 2 nights or whatever. It's not long-term.
No.
I just don't know if 10 people or 20 people is gonna be worth hiring.
Right, or if is the bleed from Wyndham, or what do they call it?
No, they have to be.
No,
they-
no. That's our highest contributor
Yeah.
for TOT.
Right.
And contracts, it's not like we give them 20,000, they get a percentage of what they find.
Collect.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I think it's outreach and trying to educate. I don't foresee us getting a contract with Airbnb.
So outreach to the people that we find on the website and say, you're supposed to self-report and we expect you to do so.
No, outreach, like, a consultant can do the outreach. We do not have time to
Right,
go through and chicken peck around on the internet and find something that has a rental.
You two are sleeping, and
If Gretel wants to, go for it. But,
but I mean, it will have to be something like that, because you're not seeing a contract with the vacation.
I don't see it happening, and it's bad enough where agencies are banning Airbnb.
No,
Just particular agencies, because they cannot get a contract from Airbnb.
and the county was able to succeed in that.
We were able to get it.
took
But
It was 2
probably,
years.
they probably won't do it again, ever.
But that is an area, when we look at revenue, and so what I really tried to do this year is identify revenues that are underperforming, that there's no reason why they should be underperforming. Like, we should be able to recoup costs. If we have a fee, we should be able to collect the fee. If we have a tax, we should be able to collect that tax. If there's a mechanism to collect it, we should be getting it. And this is one where it just doesn't add up. The trends don't add up to where I think it should be. There are some fees specific to building permits that we're not recouping, and we'll need to amend those. They're usually like the small project ones, so we are going to bring those forward. So it's like a water heater, valuation calculation doesn't make sense on a water heater, or
Right.
some small,
Do we have a low dollar value that we just assume it's not worth our time to?
they still know, because there's still a cost associated with getting those permits through, but the valuation doesn't work.
No, not necessarily.
No, it ends up calculating out to like $25.
I think
It's
it's
not,
over 10.
that's not sufficient to cover the cost of actually issuing that.
Okay.
So we are working on that, we'll bring that through. We're working on the iWork to capture the field work so we can ensure that things are getting billed out at full cost, so that we can recoup private work that's happening in the field. So right now, we're pretty much getting most of our public work staff time, some of our police time if there's like an event or a parade, but we're still not, like, we're not incorporating equipment costs that's out there, or some of the materials costs we're not fully recouping. And I would say we're still not even fully recouping the actual staff time in some of what we're doing, so we're working on that. So the only general fund is actually requiring a legitimate increase that we would need. Water and wastewater, those can be internally adjusted just by reducing that transfer out to the capital fund. We would just not transfer out the full amount that we have budgeted. The budget adjustments, we've got them broken up into the first page is report out only, meaning these are all the internal transfers. So for instance, if I'm increasing 010-3000 50001, and 3000 is finance administration, all of those added up together match the 27,000 that I'm saying let's decrease salaries because of savings. So that budget amount is getting reduced, and then we're increasing all of the other expenditures equal to that 27,000. So for each one of these lines here, you're having an offset over here.
So you're pulling these out of salary savings?
Salaries, because of savings. We have salary savings. Salaries is 50,000. Their number is 50,000.
Okay.
Like for me, we have salary savings because we had, budgeted staff to be there for the entire fiscal year. Well,
Just a temporary.
One employee didn't start until this date, and another employee
Right.
didn't
No,
start.
no,
until
yeah,
this
no, yeah. Or we're short one or two or five, or Scott's living in a trailer out back. Yeah.
date. So, salary savings.
Okay.
And that's what those are.
Anybody have any, I have one thing I want to address, and I didn't bring it up, and going back under expenditures. One of the big asks is the code compliance for 17,600.
Yep.
And I clearly understand that that's the opportunity of having Irma 2 days a week versus one, and it makes sense. Question, how many of the claims, the open cases that we have right now for code compliance, how many have gone into a citation, and how many are just in the talking phase of her trying to get them to comply?
I don't believe any of them have gone to the citation because they're actually making progress.
Okay.
So
And that's
when
my
they start making
conversation.
progress, we can't cite them because they're demonstrating progress. Now, they may not, you may want it to be done within 7 days or 10 days. They either don't have the resources to do it, or we're having to work with the owner because that might be a tenant in there.
Right.
And so we've got the whole tenant-landlord relationship that makes it difficult. Also, there are instances where it might be the owner, and the owner has rights on how they want to live within their property, but the tenant does not. So the owner has to make a safe, healthy environment for their tenant in order to charge rent. So if we come across a property that has code violations pertaining to health and safety, and there's a tenant in there, that tenant can't stay there. And so that owner has to work to identify an alternative place for them to live. So we don't just, we're trying to work with them so that they can make progress on the.
As long as there's progress being made on them, my fear is that 17,600 will just get absorbed into administrative costs and not any progress being made. But if you're saying that progress is being made, I'm happy.
Yeah, and can we get any report or anything, like even
Yeah.
if it's a one page on what she's done, or, I mean, because we have no idea. I mean, personally, I have no idea what she's, no clue. So I'd like to come and ask for another $20,000. I'm like, well, what has she done so far?
We can,
Now, it doesn't have to be a lot, it just has to be something, like, it just has to be.
Like a certain
Maybe
number of
include that in your
these and-
Something.
or whatever we're calling that now. What are we calling it?
A monthly report.
Look at that, thank you.
I mean, because, I mean, we're talking like, there's not even, what are we talking, like 20, you're going $17,000 from now until the end of June? I mean, what are we talking, 20 more days for $17,000? I just find that to be excessive.
20 more days. What do you?
Well, there's 52 weeks in a year. If we do half a year, it's 26. We're already into the.
20 more weeks. You said days.
So-
You mean weeks.
Right, but you're
Yeah.
getting her one day.
yeah.
So it's 20 more days for $17,000. So
Yeah.
I just think that's excessive. So I don't know that I'm for this. I just haven't seen what.
Is this for an additional day, so it'd be 2 days a week?
But we're already paying
the
her.
one.
You're saying, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just doing the math on it, and if there's 20 more days and there's a holiday, I'm sure, or two, or whatever.
I do get the health and safety piece of it, in town, where there's people living
That's
in
a
this.
direction.
Yeah, where there's, you know, things that are definitely health and safety related. Some of it is revenue generating.
no,
They're not.
code compliance is almost never revenue generating.
I would just like to have something like, you know, Tuolumne Street got cleaned up at this address, or just something.
Yeah, I don't think that's such a bad idea. Absolutely. I mean, I'm confident that you're getting the reports and that you know the progress is being made. We know how I feel about this because this is my passion. I want to see progress made, and not knowing and not seeing and then asking for 17,000 more and not knowing of any citations. I just certainly hope that we're not doing a whole lot of talking and then not a lot of action.
So citations is not the benchmark for success. Actual compliance is the benchmark for success.
But we're not
So-
getting, I think that's what
So-
Beth was saying, we're not getting the
Yeah,
success stories.
We
just so
can, yeah. What I would say is they just take time. So we can identify the successes that we have had that have complied. I know that there are at least 3 that have complied since we started this. Now, you know, does our house look like pristine on the front? No. Is it a health and safety issue anymore? No.
Right.
And
But
that's.
is there some type of monitoring before, I mean, like, just because people are gonna go, they're gonna revert back to what they know. So I mean,
Once they've complied,
that's it, you're done.
you're done.
So in 6 months, when it all happens again.
Yeah.
it's back over. Yeah, I don't have time spending that.
But I don't think there's anything you can do.
The alternative.
Right.
What if,
The
yeah,
alternative is
So you have
we
to
all
just-
stop
we've
complaining
done-
about
yeah.
Right, it's only,
rubbish in the yard.
And then just everything gets worse and worse because the neighbor looks at it and says, well, I might as well just throw out my garbage out in front.
The broken window.
We're
Bring it down,
We're
right
stepping in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's getting.
I don't
Okay,
So the only adjustments that we're asking for is really on the last page here. So all of these require the 4/5 vote. So these would be all of the increases. So the 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top,
the tactical security,
those all have to do with the police, Homeland
Right.
Security grant.
Mhm.
So that's the increase in the expenses, and then we've got the increase in the revenue. And then all of the ones that are the 4,000 or 40,000 numbers, the whole string of them underneath HSG down,
Mhm.
those are all increases in revenue. So those are all of the revenue increases that we've identified that are above and beyond where we had budgeted. And then the last two items, that's where we're asking for the increase for the additional code compliance and a decrease to our general fund unrestricted fund balance, which is, that's what that is. So when you look at the resolution, you've got your increase of expenditures of 306,000, your additional revenues of 288. The difference between those two is 17,760.
So we have an additional revenue, or expenditures of $306,000 in the past 6 months.
Yes.
But you've come up with $288,000 worth of additional revenue. The unanticipated admin fee, all the way through the unanticipated park rental. And the salary saving for 27,000, all these, right?
Mhm.
So really, all we're doing is we're bringing in the additional revenue because we're going to, we're just gonna hold it. We're not, so when I guess what I'm saying is, when we say expenditures, we're bringing that in to retain within the fund. So it'll be just reserved. It's just gonna stay in the general fund. The only portion I'm asking to not is that 17,000.
Right, like the salary savings, you're just leaving in there.
We're
Of the
just leaving it in there,
27,000,
yeah,
you're just leaving.
yeah.
Right. So, okay, once again, weird question, trying to learn the style of everything here.
Yep.
So what happens, I mean, right now, if you take these additional revenues of salary savings and stuff, we're actually $3,600 over budget at the moment, which I get, gas is through the roof, chemicals are through the roof, all that stuff. So what happens maybe next year when things are still the same and we are fully staffed with a salary savings of 27,000 that's not there, salary savings of 37,000 that's not there, salary of 11,000 that's not there, and a salary of 30,000 down lower. When all those salary savings aren't there, where are we gonna pull this money? Is my only concern.
Right, so some of these things are, calculation, areas on FICA and Medicare.
Right.
Those are gonna be ones like the copier.
Yeah.
We hadn't been charged in like 3 years.
Okay.
So some of these are like one-time
Yeah,
adjustments.
correct.
Right, like the computer, I get them, and we approve that, I'm all for, I'm all
We're
for.
always gonna have
Yeah.
one-time.
The alarm maintenance, the vehicle
time.
maintenance, the computer software, those were printers. Let's see, again, unforeseen vehicle maintenance, the, computers that we had to replace,
Mhm.
leave payouts, you just never know.
Right.
What those are gonna be. The ground maintenance stuff that we had to deal with, and the lighting and the fridge and the water heater and all of that. I look at all of those those are one-time costs, and I'm generally never going to budget for those to
Right.
re-happen again. The electricity, yes, but what I would say is electricity for the general fund is not that's not a massive amount. The electricity and water and wastewater is a large amount.
Right.
They also have the revenue to deal with it.
Water and wastewater, do
Yes.
100%, yes.
General fund, that's something that we'll have to contemplate. But we're talking about an increase between this one, and this one of what, 12,000?
Mhm.
13,000?
Yeah, I mean, water, wastewater kind of take care of themselves. And so I'm fine with all the one time, I mean, water heater went out, I get it, it's been crazy. It's just, we're $300,000 over right now, we could potentially be another 300,000 in 6 months. Where are we gonna pull that extra 300,000 from? It's all just, we'll figure it out, you're the money number driver lady, I love you for it. I'm just throwing out there that,
So what I would say is, when you see this 300,000, that is, I have to, okay, so when I look at this, I need to bring this revenue in, right?
mhm,
But we really aren't this, so I guess I should say, this should probably really say reserve if you wanted to. This revenue has no place to go. We're not increasing the true expenditures appropriations
Right.
288,000. We're only increasing them.
by 17, because we already have this money, I get it, no, we already have this money in the pool, it's already in the bank account.
No, that's different. This is just offsetting everything that's in here. This is really just gonna sit in the general fund. We're not reallocating this to anything. It's just, if this helps you,
Gotcha,
we're just gonna call this, you could just call this fund balance.
Yeah, like unused.
But it's gotta sit, I have to have a place for it to go somewhere, right? But really, this is what I need you, net impact is, I have to have an appropriations increase of 17,760. Because everything else
it's
is.
offset.
is off-
In,
All of those are all offset by the fact that I will reduce salaries for 27,000, and then I'm gonna increase all of these line items here, so it's a
Correct.
net impact of 0.
zero, nope,
In
I get
terms
that.
of what happens next year, yes.
We're gonna do.
I'm just,
Well,
right, because
offset.
we had salary savings at 27,000, so you can offset that
For this-
3,000 for this year.
Yes.
But if we're fully staffed next year or whenever we get there, we may not have that 27,000.
So we're gonna take care of that in budget.
We'll
I know, I
still
just-
have a
yeah.
budget, but we also won't have 3 years of copier
I know.
costs.
Yeah.
So
I won't have all the computers that we had to replace this year because nobody had a computer replaced in the
I know.
last
Who does
15.
XP?
I know, but you're always gonna have costs, that's the part of being in business.
Yes, but it's worse when you have deferred all of your
Right.
costs.
Yeah.
And you
Right,
have
years,
to-
well, I understand that, but next year we're gonna have to
For
put
the
a
past
brand new
25
roof
years.
on the post office, and we're gonna have to put a brand new roof on city council, and we're going to, so I understand that, but I also understand that.
So there's reserves for all of that. This is what we're talking about operational.
Right.
And in terms of, like roofing replacements or anything, we have reserves specifically set aside for capital for those things. And this is specifically operational. The other thing is just also on electricity, how we deal with electricity is we're paying all the electricity for all, like museum and the pickle porch and everything. We didn't budget that expense because we didn't know that CPPA under budgeted.
Mhm.
So yes, it's 13,000 here, but had we known then, that we would not have had to do this adjustment, because we would have already budgeted that, and there would have already been an offsetting reimbursement
Right.
for that. So part of this is that.
For sure.
Oh, part of the 17?
Yeah.
No, but
No, not
No.
the electricity.
No, the electricity going so high.
Yes,
And
but
you-
we have to budget the expense, and we didn't budget
Gotcha.
for that massive increase.
Right.
Okay, quickly, can we just take care of, if there's any members of the public, Rose, anybody online real quick?
No, nobody.
This will be their opportunity if they have questions. If not, we'll get the members of the, okay, so public comment will be over with, and then we're gonna come back to any other staff questions or council questions.
I had one other statement, sorry. Under revenue, you keep saying something about like property taxes we get later. Is there anticipation that property tax is gonna come in higher just based on, that's what mine, okay, great.
Is your doctor's office so behind too? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but because they're behind, I try to very conservatively budget property tax revenue because I don't know if they're gonna catch up or not. So generally, I will only budget a 2% increase, even though it could be 6, 10, 12, I don't know. So we'll do a 2, and then whatever comes in, then that will just go into fund balance, and then it gets used for the following year's budget.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, so it looks like we'll be bringing it now back for a motion for resolution 2321 or any variation of that for the budget adjustments as proposed. Do you have any motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Yeah, Alvin and Carolyn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Yes, me.
Okay, we have one opposed, Gretel. And passes 4-1. I have to apologize, I had a family emergency and I need to leave. So I can't continue with the 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So you're up.
Slide
I
over
apologize.
Okay.
Be safe. Bye.
Okay, so moving on to item numbers of commissions administration.
Okay, so I did just meet with FEMA today. They came in and gave me our packet in terms of what to expect with regards to public assistance. They also kind of addressed a little bit on individual assistance. But specifically public assistance, Calaveras was approved for all categories of public assistance, which means emergency protective measures will be 100% reimbursed. Before it was going to be 75%, and then we have to pay 25%. So emergency protective measures and I believe debris removal are both 100% federally funded. Public work repairs, that's different. That will be a 75-25%. I do need to find out if the state is going to kick in the state cost share of CDAA grant, which would then, it's a California Disaster Assistance Act. So they pay for 75% of the 25%, which then would leave us, what, 6 1/4?
Yeah.
So, I haven't gotten clarification on that. So at worst case on those projects, we would have to pay 25%. Best case, we'd have to pay 6 1/4%. That would be the local match. We will have to apply for public assistance application. All special districts within the county, if they have had any sort of damage that they want to get reimbursement or they have projects, they also will need to apply for their own public assistance projects. So veterans districts, cemetery districts, all of them. Also, for nonprofits, they also can, churches can. So it's important that those, providers of public help for the community, whether it be a special district or a for a nonprofit or any of the churches that have had any work associated with winter storms or any damages associated with it, to make sure that they also look at their applicability of being their own applicant as well. I don't know of when they used to call it a kickoff meeting or an applicant briefing. Now they have a different term for it, but that has not been scheduled yet. But when it does, I will make sure that I put that on our website and Facebook, and then the county will also be issuing their information as well. I will be working on the January department report. We just need to get through January, and everybody's just recovering from winter storms. So we're working on that. We did have the employee appreciation breakfast, and it was very good turnout.
Lucas Weeby won the raffle that he wasn't expecting to win, but I have to bribe people to get them to come, so, you know.
A good turnout.
Yeah, it was good turnout. I made Mexican hot chocolate from scratch. It was really good. And then Rose picked up donuts and Michelle grabbed the Starbucks coffee. And so we set up the tables and just had kind of a morning of just recognizing staff, all the department heads kind of give kudos to their respective staff. And I gave kudos to all of the staff, including department heads and council for supporting everybody. Yes, Mayor Herndon attended. So it was good and it was fun. And I was excited to see how many people showed up. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right, moving on to council reports. Start like we always do with Gretel. Anything to report?
No, I don't have anything. I attended the solid waste task force meeting, January 23rd. Then I was named vice chair again, even though that happened last week as last year. Congratulations. Let's see, there was some storm damage to, to the cell out of the dump. And so it's pretty expensive. And so that's gonna be part of the FEMA relief, I'm sure. Let's see, we also have someone new that joined us who is overseeing the recycling. And his name is Pete LaFazia, thank you. Can't read my writing. But we got a lot of stats, and it was really interesting to see how many people were using each of the is it the substations? Is that what I'm talking about? Yeah, transfer stations, and then how many people were using the actual dump, and on what days and things like that. So the day after Christmas is huge. Mm-hmm. It's really, really great. The dump day, I asked about that, because it was just storming terribly at the fairgrounds, but it takes a lot of effort for her to get that all coordinated. So they still had quite a few mattresses and tires and appliances brought in. So that was, it was actually pretty good. And so far, they've had 367 mattresses, 694 tires, and 618 appliances turned in. So that's pretty darn good. Then the museum, we met last Thursday. They are working on their planning for their next fiscal year budget, which is great. We're talking about an MOU between city and the foundation. So that's in the works. They are doing a lecture series. I think it was just this last Sunday. Art in the Gold Rush is coming up. And then Wine in Calaveras County is in April. Farmers Market looks like it's going to be at the museum. They're just working out all the details because they can't be in the park. Yep. They are doing a summer youth program series, which we did approve, and it's pretty great. It's Jump into the Museum. They have Strike It Rich, Gold Rush Fever, Join the Fire Brigade, which sounds super fun. The Real City of Angels. And so it's for 6 to 13-year-olds, and it's going to be kind of like a one-room schoolhouse kind of feel, where the older kids help the younger kids in the activities. And then lastly, Martin put together this movie. It's Tales of Calaveras, and it will be on Tuesday, February 21st at the Bret Hart Auditorium at 6:30, free admission. Lots of great interviews with some of our distinguished local historians that, families and things like that around Calaveras. So it's a council meeting next week.
Of course, never mind.
Yeah. But maybe we can get them to do it again, because that would be great.
Okay, Alvin.
Hey, all sorts of stuff. I don't know which one was first. We had COG, and at COG, there's the California, Clean California Trash Day on February 14th. I think this one's in Copperopolis. Amanda, we kept as chair, and I'm vice chair. We had a zero emissions report by 2035. We have to have all of our buses, which is going to be a heck of a challenge because what's being offered right now.
You can't even get us.
Well, hold on. That's coming up in the CTA. There are buses that can't even make the routes that we do now. So in the report, we're gonna have to buy extra vans, extra buses, so we can make different trips. So, and there are exemptions, so we're gonna have to go out for some exemptions and different things. But the zero emission things is gonna be pretty challenging for our territory. Trying to think what else was in there. We had some grant applications we're gonna go after. February 23rd and 24th is the evacuation plan.
Yep.
If Scott and Fire could be there to do that, that would be amazing. Then on the CTA, speaking of that, our new vehicle, our new van is here and is getting the wrap. Yes.
I don't believe it till I see
It is.
it.
According to Aaron, and I shot there. The van is here and it's getting its wrap, and hopefully at our next meeting, we will have it there and we'll get to go check it out.
Take a
I think
picture of it.
Gary's gonna drive it and try and do it. Also paratransit, they helped evacuate people from Valley Springs, during the floods and got people to the fire department, or the fairgrounds, and did a pretty bang up job, and it was pretty rough. The roads were pretty amazing to travel down. On UWPA, well, I gotta get to a different thing for that. UWPA, the main thing, well, I'm now chair of UWPA. The main thing there is when Joel, we have a good surplus of money right now. There's been some water sales that we sold to NCPA that has above and beyond what we budgeted, of $200,000 roughly. And we're gonna take those and we're gonna put them towards funding for some grant. There's an $80,000 matching grant we have to do. Oh, and some of our projects we just haven't been able to get to due to supply chain issues. So it's about $280,000 that we're seeing in the budget surplus. So we're gonna spend that on some water gates. Some of the money's going back to the agencies. It'll be held in a reserve account for when we have bad water years, we can offset our bills. And on UWPA.
And you should love.
And LAFCO, LAFCO was some review of the,
Yes.
yeah, there wasn't a whole lot that went on in LAFCO, in all honesty. And there just wasn't a whole lot, so.
Okay, great. So I
Sure, I'm
attended
forgetting
COG
something
and CTA, which you pretty much covered everything. The dial-a-ride is still getting people to the warming center, so if someone needs a ride, they can do that. And then tomorrow, 6 p.m. to 7:30 at the Bret Hart
That's right.
multi-purpose room, we have our in-person public meeting about the roundabouts. Okay, so seeing that there's no correspondence, we can move on to calendar, which I'm guessing you emailed that to us.
No, I have not. So, you mentioned the Bret Hart, Thursday night's planning commission meeting, if you guys want to attend, it's not required. We have now the 14th at 1 o'clock is the all hazards for Gretel. IRWMA for Rebecca and Chris. Central, on the 15th, sorry. Central Sierras on the 16th for Caroline. And then UWPA on the 22nd. And there's
We-
also, did you move that one?
Go ahead, I'm looking right now.
I was just gonna say, there's also the grand opening on Saturday at noon downtown for the mutual.
This Saturday?
Yeah.
For,
For the
I can't
John,
think of
I know
their
that.
name.
It's
all Jacob.
Jacob.
Joel, yeah.
I know, it'd be interesting to see what he does. He's been working in there a lot.
He had a vision.
Yes, he sounded great.
He does. A question about the Central Sierra Economic Development. Is that one that is allowed to be attended to by Zoom?
I believe so.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Because I have a meeting that backs right up to that one. but I
I'll
can't
double check for you, but
Okay.
yes.
What date did you say Utica was?
UWP on the 22nd?
It is the 22nd.
Okay. Well, we appreciate the adjournment part of the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All right, Alvin with a second, or first. Okay, Gretel with a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.